Yes, here we go. The Shelter Footy Cast live from BackChat Studios. Skeeter straight off Brecky Radio, so he's fit and firing. He's been up since 3 a.m.
Nothing better.
He wanted to get to bed soon, but we're going to get through this one for you. Shelter Footy Cast on socials. FootyCast at backchatstudios.com.au if you want to send us an email. You can find all the good stuff at shelterfootycast.com.au. Hello, Skeeter.
Hello, Scott. You're talking about going to bed. Well, I've got some inside information that said your kids were a bit hard to get to bed last night, just quite. The boys just not finding the mattress as soon as perhaps they could have. For my daughter who was babysitting, she's going, they're being a nightmare tonight. Mate, she loves your boys, but they were a bit harder last night.
They woke up this morning in the best. I've never seen them behave better this morning.
Okay.
So I'm when you know with kids, if you see that, you just stand back.
Yeah,
like,
let them roll.
God, this is amazing. They were hugging each other, watching TV. They're always fighting and stuff. They were brilliant. As I'm leaving for this, I go, boys, I just want to tell you have behaved so well. And I said,
what's the reward?
I said, no. I said, why do you think that is? I like asking a 6-year-old, why do you think that is? And she goes, well, I was allowed to stay up very late with Liv last night, and she gave me bubblegum Smarties. So
it takes a lot of measures and means, and you will know this as the kids get older. Bribes. Yeah, just completely give up your integrity as a parent to make sure they're happy.
Very good. We gave away the TASA flights on Tuesday. Skeeter, very happy recipient, thanks to Travel and Sports Australia. We gave the Freo tickets away last week. The man who won that took his daughter to the footy for the first time.
That's great.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And she had a great time, apparently. So Freo won.
Yeah, it was. In fact, I saw it on the big screen, and just quickly, a lot of, whether it was international students or people at their first ever AFL game.
Saw that.
Yeah, so it's terrific. So nice touch.
Very good. So that'll probably lead us into a little bit of what I want to talk about off the top. There's quite a bit. We'll start with something that happened a little while ago. Patrick Dangerfield cleared of his match suspension. How do you feel about that one?
Well, I know how you feel about it because you reckon there's rules for the better players and rules for others. I think I said to you, I thought Geelong should challenge it. I'm not sure what else Paddy Dangerfield could have done. I know you can bring up a litany of cases before that perhaps show that he should have got a week. I like the fact he got off, whether that's going to be an aberration. And look, even the opposition coach this week, Brad Scott, come out and said, look, I think the right decision was made.
I'm happy.
I know what you're saying, yes. But
I'm happy Patrick Dangerfield got off. I don't think that action should be a suspension. I also don't think about 10 actions this year for other players should be a suspension, but they have been.
Yeah.
That's why I'm annoyed, Skeeter. I'm not annoyed that he's got off. I'm annoyed that the AFL continues to be inconsistent when ruling on dangerous tackles. You can't tell me that pinning both of his arms and Walsh hits his head, that's not an action that's a chance to cause injury. You can't say that. How are players and coaches and umpires and the fans, who are the most important, meant to know what the fuck is going on? It is just, the inconsistencies are just unbelievable.
No, I don't disagree, but I think on this action, I think he was actually trying to, nurse him to ground.
We've seen that across others, mate.
Harley got 2, didn't he? Harley got 2 weeks.
Why?
For the slinging motion. You know,
They're not the same.
I know that. No, but I'm just trying to. Maybe it gets back to, and you don't think this is the way, but should it get back to the result? If you knock someone out under those circumstances, you got more than, a bit like if you go through a red light and get flashed and you pay the fine, but if you hit someone, obviously the ramifications are a lot higher.
If Sam Walsh was knocked out, right, he stayed on the ground. Dangerfield's probably getting 5 weeks, mate, like double arms, pinned.
Exactly.
So
that's what I'm saying.
But that's ridiculous.
Well, maybe that's the easiest way to go. If you're not concussed, the result of the action. I know that's
the AFL are butchering this beyond belief, mate. Like, it is, people are turning off the game. They don't know what's going on.
Are they?
I reckon they are, mate. I reckon they are. People, listeners, tell me if I'm right or wrong. I don't think people are, I'm not watching AFL anymore. But
there's a frustration level. I do agree.
Undercurrent of, like, what are we doing here? Either protect the head or don't protect the head. Just be consistent.
The umpires have copped it. I'm not sure people are turning away from the game, but there is a level of frustration about how the game's being administered, how it's being umpired at times, and even some of the matches we're seeing with, it does lead to sometimes not the best spectacle.
You can't allow Patrick Dangerfield, who's got a gift of the gab, great speaker, good in media, president of the AFLPA. You can't allow him to roll in and speak to the tribunal for 45 minutes and talk his way out of something. It's pretty black and white, I think. Like, if it's a dangerous tackle, there's a serious chance to cause injury, it's a suspension. That's consistency, and they haven't done that, which is bullshit, Skater. And I know that you probably agree with me. A couple of other ones. Contract land, Liam Baker has apparently had a long-term contract put to him by the West Coast Eagles.
Could he have toured the facility during the break?
No, he did.
So how does that work? If you know, I mean, we heard Daniel Rioli did the same, and there's some big. They're talking about 2 first-rounders for Daniel Rioli to go from Richmond to the Gold Coast. That seems over the odds for him. But going back to Liam Baker, the tour of the facility. Did he also do that to your knowledge at Fremantle?
Well, I read somewhere that he's got a deal from West Coast, a deal from Freo, and a deal from Richmond. I read that he's got all 3 deals, and he's weighing up his opportunities. Where's he best fit? I don't think it's at Richmond. I think he's coming home. So it's Freo or West Coast.
I probably think his time at Richmond's done, and I think he's achieved some great moments there.
Where's he fit best?
Yeah, look, he's going to get a game at both clubs, let's be honest.
If Fremantle rumours around acquiring Chad Warner are correct, he's going to West Coast.
Well, if Fremantle's a genuine chance for Warner, then, and I think his preference is the Eagles. That's what I'm hearing. But the Eagles, they just need some support in the midfield. No question.
I will say that you wouldn't want to pay, and this isn't for Liam Baker, West Coast Eagles do not want to pay over to bring people into the football club. If it's too much, they need to continue to build through youth. Correct?
Yes. I mean, if you could get a Chad Warner who is young, you're paying big dollars, but theoretically,
Liam Baker's not young.
No. That's my point. I'm exactly on that same train with any player, really.
He's 26, turning 27 in January.
Yeah, so you've probably got
prime time. That's his prime.
Yeah, but 3 years of really good footy, and then after that, the question marks come. I think just get the feeling that the Tim English factor's become not as red hot.
I don't think they're hot on him, and it doesn't sound like that's going to get done. I mean, talking about the Bulldogs, Tom Barrass is once again. Look, I think he summarised this so well in the press conference. He's once again being spoken about as rival clubs coming after him. And he was asked about it in the press conference, and he said it's a complete non-story. Every time this year, established key position player is wanted by other clubs. He's like, it's the currency of football at the moment.
Is it not? Would his manager not be adding fuel, or where's it coming from then?
Well, I think the Bulldogs want him. The Western Bulldogs want him.
But that's okay.
People in media.
Tom Barrass, it's like saying, a TV station wants me, or a media organisation wants you to work for. It's nothing wrong with being wanted in that situation. Can't hurt his, if nothing else, his ego.
So the deal he's on is till the end of 2027, I believe, at West Coast. I don't know if he's getting paid market rate there. Now, whose fault is that? Is that Tom Barrass and his manager? Is that the West Coast Eagles? But if Sydney are coming to him with $1 million a year, if Western Bulldogs are coming to him with $1 million a year, and Tom Barrass wants to go and sit down with the footy club and say, hey, this is what's on the table, I'd like you to restructure my deal.
Get me a bit closer to where I should be.
I think the West Coast Eagles need to come to the party. Now, that may be not legalities, but that may be, West Coast might say, stiff shit, you sign the deal. But he could say, stiff shit, I'm going to the Western Bulldogs. And that could happen.
And let's be honest, I know he's got his family here and young family as well, that he also probably thinks to himself, I'm hopefully a one-club player, but on the end of that, the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to be it's rebuild. It's going to be some hard work for the Eagles.
Yes.
So whether he goes to a club, it depends what your priorities are, Sco, to be totally honest. I mean, if he's happy to take $200,000 less to play in Perth, or whatever the case may be, might be bigger numbers than that.
It sounds to me that the West Coast Eagles are going to have to restructure how his deal looks. Otherwise, you'd have to look. This is like anyone else.
Did he look, though, was it the end of last year when there was a bit of noise?
Yeah, I think he did look pretty considerably at Sydney. I think he had the same discussion.
Okay.
So the West Coast Eagles, for mine, you've got a fullback that, if he was in a good side, I've said this before, he'd be the All-Australian fullback. He's playing. He was 1 mark off the all-time intercept record mark last week. He's playing the footy of his life. He's stopping goals for your football club, West Coast.
If you had a choice right now, Tom Barrass or Alex Pearce, who are you taking? Not when right now is in with a broken arm.
Barrass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I rate Alex Pearce very highly. I'd have Alex Pearson, probably the top 4 defenders in the league.
Harris Andrews ahead of Tom Barrass?
Yeah, just. But then
it's fine
Sam Collins, Barrass. Like, there's a lot of brilliant key defenders in our league at the moment, which I bloody love at BackChat. Don't worry about that.
Yeah,
so.
I know.
Hey, Optus Stadium surface is getting a bit of traction.
Yeah, it's funny, is it? Because it's
or is it?
It's
hey,
yeah,
slippery.
The traction. Yeah, there's a fraction too much friction. That's a song going back to Split Ends, which is before your time.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I've got you covered. Let me talk about what's happening.
Nick to come along and join us for the podcast as well.
Yeah, he's just the super sub just coming in.
We'll just quick shout out to Nick before you get into that. This is his last podcast with a Skeeter. So
have I driven him to despair? Have I actually driven him off the road?
He's driving planes elsewhere.
Yeah, well, let's hope the ignition's on and there's no.
He's been very good for our pod, Skate.
Yeah,
if it was no Nick, we'd talk even more shit than we do. So maybe it'll be a positive thing when he leaves.
It is. What was the question? Optus Stadium.
Stadium.
Coldplay concert, Pink concert. But the confusion for me is, and I'm sure that those at the stadium who do the curating, there was no rain for a long time. So it wasn't an issue of the surface not, obviously you can provide water. I think probably the problem has been is that given how the stadium is set up, and talk about the Travis Kelce in a minute about staying in your lane, but there's a lot of sun doesn't get to one side of the ground scale. That's why you got to use those light things on the big machines that put the light.
Have we got the cooch
sensors
into the rye, into the
whatever it is? But is there enough sun getting to the surface? And so
I'm unsure, mate.
But why does the MCG hold up? Apparently, hold up better than what our deck does here, given it just looks patchy. Why the difference when there's less traffic on the Optus than there is on MCG?
Tom, well, it can't be a traffic thing. It really can't be. Tom Barrass in his press conference, who was just holding no punches. I loved it. Like he said about the currency of footy. He was asked about the West Coast Western Bulldogs thing, and he said, I'm a West Coast Eagles player, and unless the rug gets pulled out underneath me, then I'll be a West Coast. That won't be changing. And he also said, Optus Stadium's never been in good nick.
Wooshka.
Yeah, which is true. So,
even when you were playing 18?
No, it was new, but it was rock hard. Like it was like a cuppa.
Which was very much like Marvel Stadium as it was Colonial back in the day. I remember the first year I was at the first ever game, Essendon, Port Adelaide. Players were noticeably not handling the hard surface. So look, it's put it this way: and you'll have blokes from the 90s come to me and say, mate. And I was there watching the Eagles play in 92 at the Western Oval when it was absolutely pissing with rain. The mud was that deep, and you blokes are worried about slipping over 3 or 4 times a game. Anyway, times have changed.
Sorry.
Your blokes, it's your era, you numpty.
I've never complained once about slipping over. Don't drag me into this mess.
Okay.
This one's a good one, Skeeter.
You like this one?
I like it a lot. We've spoken a lot about father-sons and the academies, right? And sometimes you and I can't really decipher these. Well, one man who had a lot to do with putting these together was Dave Matthews, the now CEO of the GWS Giants, but he was in AFL land before that job, and he helped put together the academies to grow the game to a national competition. That's why we've expanded to Western Australia to start with, to South Australia, now to New South Wales, now to Queensland, and now to Tasmania. They want a national competition. That is what they're trying to do. That was Dave Matthews' job. So he's pretty qualified to speak about that. I'm just going to read most of this article because it just sums it up really well. Giants boss slams Victorian clubs for political lobbying. So GWS Giants CEO Dave Matthews has slammed Victorian Bias for political lobbying against the Northern Academies. Goes on to say about Dave's previous role. Matthews argued that Victorian clubs have only complained when the system doesn't suit them, with the view that Gold Coast selecting 4 top draftees in the first 26 picks last year was seen as a breaking point for some teams. And so Victorian teams are kicking and screaming, we can't have this, they've got too many good players, blah, blah, blah. I'll read you some quotes from Dave Matthews with the Herald Sun, with our man Ralphie, I believe. Exclusive. Victorian clubs were happy to play the homesick card and feast on Tom Lynch, Stephen May, Dion Prestia, Jago O'Meara and others. But when the Suns develop talent in their own backyard, there is suddenly outrage. We need a far bigger national talent pool. We're aiming to be a national game, not just a national competition. That's the reality now, and even more important with the Tassie team to come. This line here is one of the great lines you'll ever hear. We're supposed to be a national competition, yet we talk about interstate clubs. Interstate from where? Which is true. What like Western Australia? What Melbourne's the everyone be all and end all. It's the same with the travel. They're kicking and screaming about having to fly over Western Australia. the travel, the schedule. We heard Essendon had the hardest schedule ever. No, you haven't. West Coast and Fremantle have. I'll continue on with Dave because it's just a brilliant quote. Grow the game nationally for the betterment of the whole competition and stop worrying about noisy southern clubs who have no interest or role to play in developing talent. Stop complaining when you're not going to take on responsibility to be part of the solution. The Academy strategy in New South Wales and Queensland is starting to work in the best interests of the code. The strategic aim of growing the talent pool for every club's benefit is being delivered upon. Most companies in the world and other industries, therefore, wouldn't dilute a strategy working in regions where they are weak or soft. They, in fact, would invest more. Any further changes to the Academy will only be made for political purposes, no other reason, politics overriding strategy. Fucking whack.
He went bang, didn't he?
I think it's brilliant. And can you argue with it?
Well, what I would say is that when it comes to some of those northern states teams, and obviously WA, separate basket for the moment, but they don't have too many advantages. Tell me the advantages they do have. This would be one of probably the only advantage they have over Victorian-based clubs, in my humble opinion.
So the Giants, since inception, 2012, 12 years the Giants have been running. How many players do you think that they have had drafted from the Giants Academy? How many players in 12 years? Total across the competition. And they're not all gone to the Giants. Other clubs have been able to access them.
Okay, we under above 20.
11
Wow.
in 12 years, right? Nick Shipley was the first, Kieran Briggs, Tom Green. So they're all to GWS. Then James Peatling, Nick Murray, Josh Fay, Patrick Voss, Cooper Sharman, Harry Roston, Nick Madden and Harvey Thomas.
And there's no, with all due respect, there's no superstars in that lot.
Tom Green.
It's Tom Green, should I say. And Sydney's obviously got some more quality with their academy.
They do.
But
that's the point.
It's quite fascinating that list shows us that it hasn't been all beer and skittles, for particularly the Giants.
And that's a great point about the Suns. So Dave's talking about the Suns here. They were absolutely ravaged by Victorian clubs for all their good players. Now that's got to a point where they've had 10 years to develop these kids. So these guys, who's it? Jed Walter, he's 18. So 10 years ago, he's 8 years old. He's probably just seeing footy for the first time. It's just the first generation where they've had 10 years to go and build these players. And the first year that they do well, we're now kicking and screaming.
Yeah,
they still can't even make finals. They're not going to play finals this year.
No.
So it's such Victorian bias. I couldn't agree more with that.
And just from a WA perspective, I suppose what they want changed is having done that work on these young players in their academies to try and get easier access to those players, which
is a good change.
It makes sense. And we're trying not to be too WA biased here, but if you are doing the work, you should be better than a 50% chance of getting the player come draft time.
Yeah, correct. Very good skater. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings, Shelter Footy Cast. Very good skate. Let's get into the games, hey? Sydney v Fremantle. This one's a big one. SCG Saturday. It's the early game on Saturday, 11:45.
Early doors, yeah. And Sydney, we know that, they just can't do much wrong at the moment. They're absolutely flying.
You made a good comment on Monday. You think it's a good time to get them, I think.
Well, yeah, if they win by 6 goals, it won't be a good time to get them. But I don't know. When is a good time to get them?
Correct. Like, you don't want them off a loss, I don't think.
I bet you Dockers are glad they beat the Giants. And I always thought they'd get up for the Giants just because of that insane rivalry they have. And the Dockers have shown, going over there, they can play really well. They beat them there 12 months ago. Yes. So off the back of that, look, Sydney's a far better side than 12 months ago, even when you break it down. And what we saw from the Dockers last week was terrific, but can they back it up on the road? They're going to be missing their captain in defence. But it is, I think it's more about can the Dockers match what the Sydney midfield can produce and the depth that they have in the midfield. So that to me is the really good question.
Sydney's forward line looks better because of the midfield that's in front of it.
Yeah.
Like, if you just break that down, forget about their midfield. Amadi, McLean and Logan McDonald, like they all are good players, none of them huge names, or not Mackay and Curnow, but they get fed this incredible ball and a lot of one-on-one contests, and they're good one-on-one players. I think the only way Freo do this is if the midfield battle can get done. Right,
absolutely.
So we've seen 2 weeks now of Fremantle. Western Bulldogs, they got their pants pulled down the middle, right? And we spoke about Bontempelli not having paid attention to, but I watched them really closely against the Suns. They, Anderson, Rowell, Miller, like they're all very good midfielders.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't go and tag any of those either. So I was saying you got to go pay attention to the best player. Well, they didn't do that, but they, in turn, pulled Gold Coast pants down. They dominated them. They were aggressive. They won clearance. There was a 45-minute period in the game where Gold Coast didn't have a clearance. So that's what they'll need to do to Sydney. Can they do it? I mean, it's a different midfield in Heaney, Rowbottom and Warner. But they're going to go head-to-head. Like, we've seen that for 2 weeks now. They're not going to go and tag one of those guys. I do think they'll pay close attention to Errol Goulden. I think you have to. I think he's the guy you're going to tag someone, he's the guy.
He's so damaging, but when you think of it, you'd say, well, when it comes to the Brownlow medal, he wouldn't even be the leading contender from Sydney.
Which is outrageous.
Well, Isaac Heaney would still be... Anyway, so off the back of that, just a quick number. Sydney, since round 12, has won the contested possession differential by 8 per game at centre bounces. And we know how important winning the ball inside the centre square at the SCG is, because one kick and you're well inside the arc. So
that's what I'm talking about with the forward line.
Yeah.
If they're getting more contested ball, they're probably winning clearance at centre bounce. They're giving them first access, and then they're defending behind it. So, like I say this all the time, footy doesn't change. If you can get field position, that'll help it a long way. So at the SCG, a smaller ground, field position's even more important. So, yeah, I think Freo are a chance. They'll probably bring Josh Draper back in, so it'll be Davies, Draper, and probably Chapman playing the third tall.
And we know Chapman's more established. Davies' second game, and Draper.
Ryan will be trying to drop off and help out.
Yeah, to me, it's still, unfortunately for the Dockers, they will all be very good players, those young players. But I just wonder, at a venue like this and against a side like this, to be able to afford to have missing. Obviously, we know that Cox is still going to be out for another week or so. Waffle this week, league.
He's at least 2 away.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a fair off. But Alex Pearce, I've got my doubts about that. And Draper's going to be, and he's done a really good job thus far. But I just wonder whether he might be with Davies alongside him. Chapman just might be a little skinny down back in terms of experience against could be a wave of footy, but they're not without a chance.
This has the opportunity for that back line, but as a team, if they could get up and beat Sydney, this will galvanise them for the rest of the year. They'll move into the top 4 with a couple of results moving around. This right here, for me, it could skyrocket them into being a real contender this year. Or if they lose, it's not the end of the world. It's Sydney in Sydney, but you don't get many of these games to, they're up against it. Their backs are against the wall, and you don't get many opportunities in a year to really make a statement. So they will know that.
I'm really confident of the Dockers not getting blown off the park on the weekend. For whatever reason, I just feel they're going to be in this contest for a long time. Have they got the quality?
Sounds like you're picking Sydney.
But, well, I think if you're going on logic, you have to pick Sydney, and, well, you might not be going on that path. I know you've tempted to pick Fremantle, as you would, but I just think the quality is there. But I think Fremantle can be in this game for a very long time.
Scully's Roughie of the week, picking the Freo Dockers at the SCG. I'm just going to get around them. I like seeing West Australian teams do well, and it'd be great for the competition if they knock them off.
I agree with you, but that still doesn't mean I'm having to tip the Dockers.
I'm a shit tipper. It's okay.
You know what? I'm 6 from 6 the last 2 weeks.
Is that right?
And there's no way I'll get 9 this week, but that's extraordinary.
That is extraordinary.
Yeah.
You got no idea with these games usually.
Sorry, Ron Barrass. Yeah, go on.
Ron Barrass.
Just trying to think of a famous football name. The late, great.
Ron Barrass and Ted Whitten, Shelter Footy Cast. West Coast v Hawthorn Optus Sunday. Yeah, this one's at home on the ice rink, skating rink here at Optus Stadium.
I've got Rockefeller Centre.
Might be a bit of rain around. So
really?
No idea.
No, it's
absolutely no idea.
It's sunny and 19.
I'll tell you one thing.
I'll tell you 2 things.
I'll tell you what's 2.
Well, whatever you're about to say, I'm going to say whatever. You seriously, you don't know who's playing half the time. You just certainly don't look at the weather forecast.
Exactly right. I have in my life never looked at the weather. And you've just come off Brekkie Radio. How many times do you talk about the weather today?
A lot. But
every clock check you're going, it's 13 degrees outside. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it's 14 degrees. Who gives a shit?
You reckon I do? Carl's got his laptop open with the radar showing us, that's suburbs getting hit. I'm saying, Carl, I don't care. Unless it's going to blow my house down. If it rains, great. But I seriously don't care. So, yeah, he's 3 level in terms of complete weather junkie. I'm just interested to know if it's going to rain on Sunday because I might have to walk to my car after the game, and you got no idea.
So the weather forecast
Fine.
for Sunday, it's perfect weather.
I told you that, 19 degrees and sunny.
Beautiful. Okay, so you'd had a look at it, you idiot. West Coast Hawthorn. Harley Reid and Tim Kelly will be back.
That's big.
It changes the entire complexity of their team, to be honest. It's the first time we'll see Harley Reid, Tim Kelly and Oscar Allen together. That could be wrong.
Is this their best side for 2 years?
Matt Flynn. First time Matt Flynn's played with everyone together.
Almost since COVID, dare I say it? Almost since COVID.
This will be their best side.
Close to their best side. Maybe when Gaff was up and running, but you know what I'm saying? That in terms of availability.
Jeremy McGovern speak about not playing much with footy with Tom Barrass over the last couple of years because Jeremy McGovern's been injured. Oscar Allen's been out all year. Yeah. Elliot Yo's missed a lot of footy. So, yeah, I'm interested to see this matchup. And
just on Elliot, thoughts, condolences to his family. His father, Craig, passed away, and I'm sure that the players will wear black armbands on the weekend. Not sure if you ran into Craig along the journey, but a really good publican. Ran the Broken Hill Hotel. Prior to that, did things like the Mount Henry. And even, look, I was in reasonably regular conversations with him over the past 12 to 18 months. He'd check in on me after having lost my job and my dad, and I'd check in on his health. I knew he was going through some issues. So it's a really sad time for the Yo family and Corey and Elliot, and of course Wendy. So our thoughts are with them, and I'm sure Elliot will be hurting at the moment, but I suspect he'll put his energy into a really good performance on the weekend.
Yeah, if I can echo that, mate. Knew Craig pretty well, saw him a lot, great man. I was really sad to learn of that on
had a fall, I believe, late last week, and he was inducted, just in brief. He passed away that afternoon, but was inducted into an Australian Hotels Association legend status at a Suppliers Awards. So I know some of his family were there, and a mate of mine said, look, took us to a photo, showed me it. So Yoey, that's Craig and the whole family. Really sad time for the family. Our thoughts are with them.
All right, so as I'm sure you'd like, we'll get back to the footy. I think there's matchups galore in this one. It's really interesting looking at the spine of the West Coast Eagles. So their spine, look, I keep banging on about their list, right? Their spine is very good, Skeet. Barrass, McGovern, Flynn is in the mid part of ruckman in the comp. He's certainly not the worst, but he's not the best. Then your midfield in Reid, Kelly, Yo, Oscar Allen, Jake Waterman. That's spine, mate. That is a spine. Compare it to Hawthorn's.
It's not a bottom four team that when you put those names in there.
Listen to Hawthorn's. Marby or Chol, right? Whatever. Mitch Lewis is just back.
And Chol's having a good year, by the way.
Correct. Lloyd Meek, who is same ruckman as Flynn, I think, mid part. But their midfield in Day, Newcomb, Warple, something like that. That's not a star-studded midfield. Their back line, I couldn't name their second key back. So Sicily won.
Frost, is he probably?
Big Frosty, mate.
Yeah, who's so
compare those spines. Compare the pair. West Coast is a long way in front.
Yeah, compare the pair. You're right, as the ad goes. But, you know Sam Mitchell and what he's done. And I don't think there's anyone who admires him as a coach more than you. So that shows you. And when will Mitch Lewis return? Is it going to be this week?
Played in the VFL last week.
So there's a chance he might make his comeback against the Eagles. So Hawthorn's been in terrific form. This should be a really good game. I'm looking forward to it off the back of those ins for the Eagles. Hawthorn's form. And as I think it was Sicily speaking during the week on Sevens Talking Footy, saying every game now means something to us, which in the last couple of years hasn't been the case. So, and they're a bit of even though they're a club that's had great success, they're a bit of a fairy tale for this year if they can continue their push towards the finals.
I like it. They're in 13th at the moment, but they're one game out of the 8. So, big game for Hawthorn. I'm picking the Hawks. This one.
I'm picking Hawthorn as well, but I
challenged by West Coast, and West Coast could easily win.
There's no doubt about that. I think. Yeah, this is going to be a test for a young Hawthorn side away from home. I mean, it's amazing. If this game's played in Launceston, you're not even considering it. It's a lay down misère, just on the basis of how they play there. Yeah, the Eagles, they haven't been good at home the last month. This is their chance. After still getting beaten by 30 points, they need to show something. Their pressure rating's been down in the past month, as we see on Fox quite regularly. But yeah, if they get thumped by Hawthorn, that's another major step backwards because Hawthorn's good, but they're certainly, I think the Eagles at home should be very competitive.
The weather is one thing I don't know about, and the pressure gauge, I have no idea what that means. Like, it gets rolled out, the producer will be in my ear going, look at the pressure gauge. I don't know what it means.
Is that basically, in all seriousness, is that like you're tackling and you're harassing? Is that pressure gauge?
Mate, I have no idea. Someone just winds it up back in the front room.
But pressure gauge is for me when I've got a multi on the go and some bloke puts it out of bounds on the full in the last minute. I need to get a score. So that's the pressure gauge for me.
Mark Redding's just fucking blown up, running hot last 5 minutes. Mark Redding's. Will's go for Mark Redding, Shelter Footy Cast. All right, Skeeter, I'm telling you now, I've got 16 minutes. I'm going to do a run through here.
I'm happy as Larry for that.
Brisbane, Melbourne at the Gabba Friday night. Will Ashcroft will be back in. They've named him. That's great to see off his ACL. Jake Lever and Christian Salem expect to be back for the Demons. Interesting matchup, this one. I see Brisbane absolutely smacking Melbourne here.
Yeah, well, they're being able to kick a score and the Demons haven't. That's the bottom line here. Demons are averaging just 68 points in the last 5 matches. That's ranked 17th in the competition.
Wow.
And we know what the Lions are doing. They're playing offensive footy. They're coughing up some goals, but when it comes to sides that you'd fear to meet in a final, if they can get themselves into a position, it's the Brisbane Lions.
It's not Melbourne.
And I think Melbourne. Just because Petrarca's isn't there doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to win matches, but they look like they're just stuttering. Yeah,
the way they're playing, they've really missed Jake Lever in the back line because Stephen May's been asked to do too much. Their forward line has never been very good, but they've had midfield dominance. So,
and what about Clayton Oliver? Just 7 disposals, effective disposals, 1 tackle last week, gave away 5 free kicks. He has not been anywhere near or a shadow of the player that we know he can be this year for whatever reason.
Well, I mean, we know why, mate. We saw it in the pre-season. All those rumours are true, and well, probably not all the rumours are true, but like all the noise is there, and he hasn't had a pre-season to prepare for this year, and he's playing catch up. That's what happens. Doesn't matter how good you are. I pick Melbourne. I pick Brisbane.
We all picked Lions.
I pick Brisbane. North Melbourne v Western Bulldogs, Marvel Stadium. Couple of ins and outs. Kobe McKercher played in the VFL. I've still held on to him in my dream team, so I'm hoping he comes back and plays AFL. Griffin Logue played in the VFL. They'll be desperate to get him back in the side. I wonder if one game back in the VFL is enough for Griffin Logue to come back in. Aaron Norton will be back for the Dogs.
Absolutely, yeah. They've got a really good record, the Dogs, against North. They've won their last 5 games against them by an average of 59 points. I don't think this will be the same, although
Norton and Darcy are back. Darcy back on the suspension.
That's significant, isn't it? And look, as brave as North has been, and as good as they've been, having beaten the Eagles, which is a victory, but something to generate some momentum for them. Running Collingwood close, running Melbourne close. I just hope for their sake that those couple of defeats don't take the wind out of their sails, because I think the Bulldogs, with those ins, are going to be... there's a bit of doubt about Bontempelli, by the way. I read...
right?
Yeah, I just read that. I haven't been up to date with all the footage.
It was the same against Freo.
He was sick, and he came and smashed him. He came out and kicked the goal of the year and completely made the Dockers look like statues.
Perfect. Look forward to his 3 Brownlow votes against North Melbourne. I'm picking the Bulldogs.
Bulldogs, comfortably.
Gold Coast v Collingwood. There's some interesting matchups. This is one of them. At Gold Coast. If this is the MCG.
Game over.
10 goals minimum. Ben King, a little bit of question mark over him. There's a couple of big ins for the Magpies, probably Scott Pendlebury and Brodie Myercheck to come back in. Jordan Tagoe also rumoured to be close to being ready. We always knew that Collingwood were going to start getting some of these names back, and the way they've been playing without them says that they're still going to be a very, very good side. Gold Coast, really disappointing over here last week. They were pretty bad.
Poor. Their midfield was, their much vaunted midfield was average, and look, they go home, this home sweet home, but I didn't like what I saw from the Suns last week.
No.
I thought it was an ordinary performance. I thought they lacked, put it this way, if we're talking about them as potential finalists, that was, mind you, say the same thing about the Dockers the week before.
That's a good point.
So I trust Collingwood more. Even with half the side in, you've always thought that you know what you're going to get, and that's generally competitive footy. They just beat North Melbourne. That being said, North, it was... You can't get up for every game because Collingwood generally has got a crowd of about 80,000 at the G, so there are going to be matches where they struggle. They've been hurt by personnel issues, but I think there's still enough quality there.
pretty much even money in this one, Skeeter. So, which is interesting. Look, I'm going to pick Gold Coast. I think they bounce back. I think Damien Hardwick will be filthy on them with how they performed over here, and they'll need to bounce back at home, and I think they will, and I think they beat Collingwood.
I think Collingwood wins. They've won 9 of their past 10 against the Gold Coast Suns, averaging 44 points, so their record's good. And the travel doesn't matter to them.
Do they play much up Metro?
I think they do, because I think the AFL tries to schedule them up there to bring the crowd. So I don't think we know that the Collingwood side travels as well as anyone when they travel, but yeah, the big inclusions for them. And let's be honest, Collingwood, I think it's fair to say their last month is starting to even without the players they need in there, they're still going to be very hard to beat.
All right, you're Collingwood, I'm Gold Coast. Adelaide v GWS Saturday evening. Of course, off the buys, we've got 9 games this week, which is great. Taylor Walker, we should have a game tonight. I don't know why we don't have Thursday night football. Taylor Walker is going to be back. That's a big in for Adelaide. And GWS still sitting 6th. It feels like their season...
Stuttering,
but they've kind of always been around the mark. I thought they were good in stages against Sydney, but they couldn't sustain that effort. Adelaide Oval makes this one a pretty intriguing matchup.
Yeah, I mean, the last month, the Crows have lost the centre bounce clearances by 9 per game. That's ranked last in the competition. They've got a lot of holes in their side. I know the pressure's going on both Port and the Crows. You mentioned some of those ins coming back. I just think the Giants, they've got a good record over there. I don't think there's anything to fear. I think they've got more upside than Adelaide. I think Giants win.
All right, so do I. Geelong v Essendon and MCG Saturday. Like Thursday night game, there's 2 fucking games on at the same time Saturday night. They're both 5:30 Saturday. Put one of them on Thursday, Skeeter. Sort them out.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll check in with Laura Kane and see if we can do something there for you, William.
Geelong v Essendon. This one, strange one. Essendon. Look, Essendon feel a little bit like Collingwood to me, and I don't mean that in the way they play, but the way we think about them. We think they're going to fall over. We think they're not going to be good enough. You know, as Collingwood over the last couple of years, we kind of think, oh, they can't keep winning these close games. Essendon keep winning, and I know what's about to come out of your mouth. I don't think they're.
No, I think Collingwood has shown against the better sides. Essendon hasn't yet. Right. I don't think this year. And Geelong's a weird one because they've lost obviously Hawkins through injury. They've obviously kept Dangerfield in the mix, and Essendon, I feel like they're tailing off to some degree, but Geelong's been in such bad form that you just wonder. I think this is the country cup or some country themed match at the MCG. Well, you're a Geelong boy. You should know this sort of stuff.
I have no idea.
Yeah, well,
you're from Canada, so
I try and keep up to date. Anyway, the Cats have been putrid for a while. Essendon, I think, just tailed off a bit.
Nothing I've seen from Geelong tells me they win this game. Why would they win?
No, because they've got a good recent record against the Bombers. I'm not sure what the numbers are. I'll have a look, but they've just owned the Bombers in recent times.
Well, yeah, I just think Essendon's playing good enough footy to beat them. Geelong are playing no good. They don't get any players back. That they don't excite me by the way they watch.
But some teams play well against other sides for whatever reason. Geelong has won 18 of its last 21 matches against Essendon by an average margin of 52 points. That dates back to 2006. I know it has no relevance in 2024, but
Geelong's
it's
been a good side for a long time, and Essendon haven't been.
That's probably right, but I like to use that stat just to back up what I was saying. Thank you.
It's amazing where you pull these from.
Oh, it's
a fountain of knowledge.
It's Louis. What's his last name?
Kabowski.
Yeah, he goes well. So we'll give him a shout out and maybe a shelter if I see him.
If you ever wonder like where these stats come from,
and what are you?
Well, I'll bring them out of the depths of my brain.
Here's a stat which I saw on Twitter last night. I'm pretty sure it's right.
Please be irrelevant to football.
So Swamp has said that I think, I forget the year, but if you kick 95.6 points in a match, you're 95.6% chance to win the game.
That sounds like something Carl would bring up.
Yeah, well, at least it's not 12 goals. But anyway,
so if you kick 95, you win the game most of the time.
Well, you're kicking 100 roughly. So
that's like the first 100 sort of stat, isn't it?
Yeah.
No one loses if you get to 100.
No, and in the modern footy, it's probably 80 points or something lower than that. Yeah.
Essendon.
I'm tipping Essendon as well.
St Kilda, Port Adelaide, Marvel Stadium, 11 a.m. on Saturday. Wowee, wake up.
Tough game though to call.
Yeah, to call.
No, to try and.
Well, Port Adelaide, they are just booing their coach. They've got people external coming for them. Both Adelaide and Port Adelaide, South Australian footy at the moment, there's a bit of unrest, isn't there?
Well, put it this way, we know how they've been feeling here in the West. I mean, last year the Dockers were going no good, and the Eagles were completely down the chute. So yeah, but there's some angst about what Warren Treadray is saying on radio about Port Adelaide and. Ken Hinkley and Josh Carr obviously in the mix.
Apparently Josh Carr's he doesn't have the handshake deal anymore. Caro's reporting that.
Is
He's
that
meant
right?
to be the handover, but that's gone and they're looking elsewhere.
Oh, well, they should at least open up the gates if it does go to that. But yeah, Port Adelaide.
They should win this. St Kilda are no good. Port Adelaide should win this easily.
They should. In fact, their record's really good against the Saints. And Saints, they get back Wanganeen Miller, I think, after missing last week because of personal reasons.
Yes.
Jimmy Webster as well as Paddy Dow.
Yep. Willie Rioli should be back for the power.
Yeah, he had a calf, which was pretty close to playing last week, but didn't. So matches at Marvel, this is probably the hardest game. I think St Kilda will push them. Port Adelaide to win, but I'm off Port big time. So
you're going for third week in a row with all the tips right. So who are you picking?
I'm picking Port. I actually picked St Kilda for the paper.
Don't talk about it like it matters who you pick. Like you could say anybody.
I'll say St Kilda just to piss you off.
Richmond v Carlton. What's your roll in Monday? I told you the Saints would win. Richmond v Carlton Sunday. I think this is a nothing game. Carlton rolling by a long way. It'd be a middle of the day fizzer. Tom Lynch is out again with a hamstring. Adam Chera should be back after a decent layoff with that hammy. So Carlton are a much better side than Richmond, and they should win this easily.
It's been having Chera to come back into that midfield just gives them so much bite. We know Walsh and Cripps are going brilliantly. So yeah, Carlton normally these games, even I think earlier this year was it round one, they pushed them, the Tigers, but they're just decimated with injuries. Blues are flying. We'll be winning.
Will Schofield, Mark Redding's Shelter Footy Cast. All right, a bit of input from our listeners and viewers. Skeeter Craig Taylor says, idea for the bye round. So we're talking about the byes last show. AFL has a weekend off. But and my idea was, God knows what I thought.
You wanted to have you and all those other old blokes play like a Ted Whitten game.
For cash.
$5,000.
I think you said charity. I was like, what? I never said charity. AFL has a weekend off, but the grand finalists from the previous years, from the Waffle, VFL, Sandford, Quaffle, TasFL, etc., all meet up for a footy festival in a single city on a rotational basis and play a few games like a Champions League. Add in 2 all-star AFL teams and you'd get some decent viewership. Played Thursday through to Sunday and have a final game Sunday Arvo too. Don't mind that.
Yeah, a bit like when we did the Foxtel Cup. I had the pleasure of going around the country doing that. And
why did you like that? Because of the quality of football?
It was good just to jump on a flight, business 1A, and just sit on a flight. And it was like Ben Dixon, Adam Ramanauskas, Barry Hall. So you don't reckon we got on the gas when we went to Darwin or up to Sydney or the Gold Coast?
You couldn't tell me one team you called. You just checked straight into the hotel, straight to the bar, and then
we did the game under duress, and then we jump on a plane. Because I was in Perth, saying Darwin, so you do the game, go out the night before, do the game at 9 a.m, be a bit dehydrated. AFL game follow that, but I had to go to the airport for a 3 p.m. flight, but the match finished at, say, 11 o'clock, so I had 3 hours in the Qantas Club. Then I flew 3 hours back. I get home and Victoria say, where have you been? The Melbourne Cup or something? Like I was completely cooked.
Footy trip.
Footy trip. And I say, bring it back, yeah.
I like that idea. Well done, Craig. Virginius Maximus. I'm a North supporter. Thanks for joining us, Virginius. I like that. A North fan is listening. I think their defence is actually really improved with Comben back there.
What about Jackson Archer as well?
Yeah, Jackson Archer and Comben, 2 young players, look like they've absolutely got it. Hopefully Logue can help out more, but Callan Dawson was already doing a decent job, who I think is who Logue could push out of the team. The big difference the last few weeks, though, has been the addition of Bryn Teakle, taking a big defender off Larkey and Zerha, giving Zerha the ability to run around a bit more and to not play as a second tall. I saw Bryn Teakle play in the game just gone. He was really good, Bryn Teakle.
Yeah.
So this is the kid that's come
from East Fremantle.
Yep.
But we ended up going in the mid-season draft last year. I think he ended up at Port Adelaide. Yep. Might have gone to train with Collingwood at some stage as well. But so he's playing as a defender. Is that right? Because I thought he was more
second ruck.
I was going to say draft is more as a ruckman.
No, second ruck. So Bryn Teakle's playing in second ruck.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Forward. And he's allowing Larkey and Zerha to get a little less attention.
Gotcha. So that makes more sense. And look, he's He's been through the ringer with injuries when he got to Port, but that's fantastic if he can continue and hopefully get a contract at the end of this season.
Matt Shelley on YouTube, the performance Goulden with over 900 metres game was immense. It reminded me of Peter Matera in the 1992 semi-final. Sketty, you'd be remembering that one, no doubt. I was 2 years old. 30 kicks, 5 handballs and 2 goals, plus the number of bounces would have easily cracked the 1 kilometre easily. The record, by the way, is Aaron Hall, 1,169 metres for the Kangaroos.
Yeah, former Gold Coast Sun. Same
yes,
one.
Correct.
Okay. Look, there's nothing better, is there? Because we see so much congested crap in football, to be able to see an Errol Goulden, going back in time, Peter Matera, the game was different, but to see a player, Jordan Clark last week, get into space and make metres and run with the footy, it's just so rare.
Peter Matera was, so like you tell me, and I'll take the piss out of you, you'll remember, but like I just wasn't around to see him play. He was a line breaker and a runner, right? He would just get it and just take him on.
Exactly, but again, the game was slightly different with regards.
So he stood out more, even. So.
Just it was one-on-one, so he probably had more opportunities, and the teams didn't set up as well behind the ball. It's just a different game, but it was exhilarating to watch. I mean, the 92 final series, full stop. That's why it's great to see when a player with real genuine pace gets the footy and can run with it. It just lights up the stadium.
Looking forward to Jeremy Sharp trying to shut that down. I reckon that's the man for the job. Skeeter, that's us done and dusted. Love your contributions. A big thank to Nick Wextel. Give him a thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nick.
Good. Well done, Nick.
Applaud,
See you later, Nick. Beautiful way to finish things off. I mean, 15 minutes late to the podcast.
We'll give you a shelter hat on the way out for your contribution, and then get out.
Shelter Footy Cast on socials, FootyCast at BackChatStudios.com.au. Have a good weekend at the footy.
Ciao.